Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of Pockets of Joy, your weekly podcast dedicated to bringing you happiness and inspiration. I'm your host, Niamh O'Connell from the Wellness Clinic. Today my guest is the inspiring entrepreneur Anna Day from Wild Simplicity, an Irish mum of two living in Portugal. Anna's message is about paring back the non-essentials to reveal your true and powerful self. I love that. Let's dive into this pocket of joy and learn about decluttering not only your environment, but your language and mindset too. Check my YouTube channel for the video version, and the books we mention are all linked in the show notes. Enjoy. I'm delighted to introduce today the beautiful Anna Day from Wild Simplicity. Anna is somebody I have followed online for years, since we met each other years back when your babies were small, I think. And Anna runs a podcast. She runs women's circles online. She's a KonMari type declutterer who inspires you to organize your physical world. But I noticed, Anna, in recent years, you've moved more into the psychology and decluttering your mind and decluttering your language. So I'm excited to ask you all about the different strands to your work. And you're a very authentic person. You share very authentically, you share very personally. And I think that's what connects people to your work. Definitely, you come from the heart with your work, and it really comes across really honest and inspiring. So I'm delighted to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Niamh. So gorgeous to be here.
Great. If there's the odd groan, it's not me or my stomach, it's my dog right here on the sofa beside me, just so you know.
So cute. Love it.
Yeah. So do you
Our
want to tell
companion.
me about what you're at the moment, the kind of different things you're working on and who you're working with? You're based in Portugal, so I presume your work is mostly online, isn't it?
It's mostly online. I do some in person, but yeah, at the moment it's mostly online. We moved to Portugal a year and a half ago, so still relatively new here. And I'm now entering the world of women's circles as of recently. It's been a deep passion of mine for a few years, and now I'm finally coming out into the world and holding space for other women. I've been holding space for women in circle as well, but through my decluttering circles. So I gather women together and we declutter together online. A small space. We come and it's great for accountability and for motivation, and it's such a lovely. So I've been really enjoying those. And I also work one-to-one with women to declutter their spaces online, virtually. I do in person as well, but less so these days. And yeah, really working a lot with the energetics of our homes, the energetics of our spaces, our minds, our bodies, our emotions, and how it all weaves together and interacts. And I really have a firm belief of our outside world reflects our inner world. And if we can shift things and energy and physical items in our homes and in our home and a world around us, that it really shifts things internally as well, and vice versa.
Huge. And I bet you saw that yourself when you were packing up to come to Portugal, or to go to Portugal. You probably had to declutter and simplify a huge amount as well, did you? Did you notice you
Yeah,
were able to leave stuff behind, knowing this is actually just excess?
totally. I think we came with 8 suitcases, which may seem like a lot, but actually,
Not for
with
a family of
clothes
four.
and
You have two children.
yeah,
What ages are they now?
yes, 2 children. Connor is 9 and Chloe is 7.
So they're still
So,
in big toys phase, I'm sure.
exactly, lots of Lego.
Yeah.
And we did then actually bring over some more stuff after that, but very little. And we've really tried to be mindful about what we have. We're in a rented accommodation as well. So being mindful of what we have, being mindful of what's around us. And I had the same when we moved from London to Dublin years and years ago. We also had stuff in storage for about 3 months while we lived with my parents.
Oh, wow.
And the stuff all came when we found our house, and the stuff all came. We thought, my gosh, what is all this stuff? We do not need this stuff. We were unpacking, saying no. So we were really quite ruthless then. So we've gone through a couple of stages of decluttering. It happens in layers, and it's like a spiral. I think there's, my decluttering journey started back when I was in London, probably 12 years ago. I don't know. Yeah, before kids anyway. And I discovered simplifying and discovered decluttering and discovered living this way. I was always quite organized and tidy and used to rearrange my stuff all the time as a child. And a kind of a way of dealing with chaos, I think, in the outside world, and centering myself and having a sense of control, perhaps. Yeah. But so that was always there within me innately. But I was always accumulating things and never let things go. So this was a new thing for me when I started to discover simplifying and letting go and releasing that stuff and living, very much going from a state of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. And more can come to me in creating this flow. Again, back to the energetics of it, when we create that energetic flow, but when things are stuck and blocked. So as soon as I was letting go of things in London, it started from, you know, my clothes and excess things I built up over the years, and got deeper and deeper. And yeah, so it's amazing what we accumulate though. Moving from our apartment in London, we filled up an enormous truck. I was thinking, how have we filled up this enormous truck? Not even with the furniture, with just stuff.
Yeah.
And it's frightening, really. So moving helps, actually, because we've moved a few times. It's helped to really, you know, let go in different layers. But yeah, I'm definitely more mindful these days of what I allow into the house.
So cool. I think I was just saying to you before we started recording, during COVID, I got very claustrophobic, as I'm sure everyone did. And I was really hung up on the idea of moving from our house for a long time. And I've realized now that we've settled back into normal life, whatever normal is, that I'm really happy here. I love the roots we've put down. We're 18 years in this house. It's the longest I've ever lived in any house because my parents moved 4 times when I was a child. So I was always starting afresh. And I don't want to leave this house. I love the neighborhood and the community, but I think my idea for moving was to literally just have to go through all my stuff and cut it down. I really think I needed something that big and that major to make me tackle my clutter. Because as you can see, if anyone's watching the video on YouTube, you will see the bookshelves behind me, and I'll just give you a quick pan. I mean, look at that. That's normal for us, right? And that goes down to the floor. There's another few things that you can't see. So I find letting go really hard. Now we have to hang on to certain things, like some books for homeschooling. We need to show them to the department when they come out and assess us. So we need some physical objects, but we don't need this many. And a lot of the learning the kids do is online because we homeschool, if anyone doesn't know that. But I find, I was only talking to another mom the other day about this, giving away like the kids' clothes, you know, from when they were babies, or I've got the odd shoe, like a single shoe that my daughter wore when she was 4, and I can't bring myself to just put it in the bin. And, you know, I'm thinking that was her there. That's where she took her little steps. That's where she lived her life, was in those shoes, and they were really cute. And I know we've photos of them, but there is something about a tangible physical object that connects us to the past. And I do struggle with memory. Like, I don't have great memory retention. I think it's a neurodivergent thing. So for me, my memories are rooted in physical objects, and I feel like I'm comforted by the memories of my life when I look around and see my stuff. But I am in clutter mode constantly, and I'm always firefighting, and there's always areas, hotspots, or whatever you want to call them. So where is that coming from in my or other people listening, in our psychology, that unwillingness to let things go and to hold on to memories in physical objects? Is that a trauma response from childhood or something like that?
I think it can be, yeah, for sure. But I think there's nothing, you know, in the decluttering world and the simplifying world, there's a lot of, yes, we must get down to those, you know, sentimental items and let them go.
Yeah.
But it's so individual to each person and to each person's brain. And as you're saying, like memories for you come through objects. So it's really important to not shame ourselves. We've enough shame going on for wanting to hold on to items like that. Like, it's so lovely.
Everything turns sentimental for me. Like, if I bring something into the house, okay, let's give you this example, right? I bought this in a car boot sale last summer. I don't even like it very much. It's a porcelain figurine of 2 children, right? I don't even know why I bought it. I liked the look of it and I wanted to buy something that day, so I bought it. It's quite ugly. It doesn't fit anywhere. I don't want to particularly look at it, but I'm thinking, well, there's a memory from last summer.
Okay. And how would it feel if I said to you, can you let that go now today? Does that give you anxiety?
Part of me used to have, as many hoarders and clutterers do. I had an Etsy shop selling vintage and retro homewares. So part of me thinks, oh, I can put that up on eBay and maybe get 20 quid, whereas it cost me 2 quid. And I'm thinking there's monetary value somehow in that, but I'm never actually list it online and package it up and sell it. I'm not doing that at the moment. That's not a thing I do. Why can't I just put that in the charity bag?
Yeah, because the time it takes as well, and the energy. Like, so what I do with clients is getting people to think about the energetics that is in our stuff all around us. So every time you see that, you subconsciously have a ping of, oh, it's there. I want to do this Etsy shop. I won't do the Etsy shop. It's worth something, but I don't, you know, there's all this narrative that goes on so quickly in our minds as we see all these items. So I encourage people to let go of the things that have those narratives with them that are niggling, telling us that we need to do something.
Yeah, because it's not a good
And
association. I'm looking at that and I go through all that and it's quite negative. Yeah.
exactly. So I would say if you do want to do an Etsy shop,
I don't.
get a box. You don't.
I don't
Perfect. You know that instantly.
I don't even do adverts.ie. Like I've tried and failed with that too. So it just has to go to charity.
Yeah, it has to go to charity shop, and you take in that memory of when you bought it last year, of the summer, and if it helps, then write down something in a journal or keep something on your computer in a Google Documents of memories. Create a different way than having these massive physical objects all around us to hold those memories. You know, it's because it then it becomes, as you said, everything becomes a memory and everything becomes sentimental and everything becomes important.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the KonMari way, I don't follow her way of doing it, but I love her way of, because it's not very useful for, I think, especially parents and mothers who are asked to take everything out of their wardrobe because, you know, inevitably to collect the kids from school, you get a phone call or something, and then you come back to a house. That's an absolute tip. So I don't encourage to take out everything, but it is really useful to take out, like what you have there, like loads of, get together all your ornaments, all your trinkets, and decide, which do I love here? Because only when they're all together can you really get that sense, when you hold something, of what you get, that flood of joy through your body. And then the other ones, you know that you're holding onto them from a sense of, if you can sense into that different feeling in your body of holding each different item. It's only when you have them all, when you look at them all separately there, you're like, oh, this one and this one. And it's too overwhelming.
I think a really good tip that KonMari does, and obviously you're talking about too, is to gather things from one category, say ornaments, and take them off the mantelpieces and the shelves and put them somewhere else completely where they don't belong, maybe like your bed. And seeing them out of context, I think, helps you see them in a different light, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. And it takes that, it takes the charge out of where they are, and for sure. And even I'm not trained in Feng Shui, but I love Feng Shui from the point of view of where things are placed in our home as well, and changing that up. So, you know, having a look at our room, or taking things all off a surface and then placing back mindfully in different places than we normally would, to create a different energy and to see if there's any flow or any change in our life as a result of that. It doesn't have to be decluttering, it doesn't have to be letting things go, but actually just shifting their position in the house. So then we start to either notice them again, because, you know, things just fade when they're in the one place stuck the whole time. We don't see it. That's how clutter happens. It becomes invisible.
Yeah. I definitely identify with that. I remember seeing a Feng Shui video, because I kind of followed a few videos on that last year in an attempt to declutter my house a little. And the guy was saying he unpacks his rucksack every day. Like, I think he's a college student, and he unpacks it every day and then repacks it. And even if the same stuff is going back into it, it helps him just see, maybe I could actually leave this notebook behind and freshen it up. And he said it keeps that chi or that energy flowing, and it's a more positive thing. Because especially 100%. With handbags, we can just leave stuff, and my car, we can have piles and piles, you know, going back weeks or months of stuff. Yeah.
Handbags and wallets as well. Going through the wallet is a great idea. Getting rid of receipts, allowing that energy of, you know, putting our money in and really taking care of our money, and creating that respect around it, and allowing more to come in. Just really tending to those spaces that we tend to leave hidden in the dark, and every so often having a little
comfortable. Maybe we're worrying about money and we don't want to go there and actually count the pennies in the wallet.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
That's so cool. So how do your decluttering circles work? Talk me through practically, what do people do if they want to declutter an area with you?
So what I say is to choose an area that is a small area, and that doesn't contain sentimental items, and not photos, not paperwork, not you know, very memorable things, because that takes a lot of time, energy, emotion, but more like a junk drawer, or some people have done little kind of small cupboards or wardrobes. And so people come and we all come together on Zoom, and I do intention setting at the beginning, so to really ground ourselves, center ourselves in what we're doing, and to envision the life that we want to be living, and the way we want to be feeling in our homes and in our spaces. And then everyone goes off and starts decluttering, and I'm there to answer questions as we go along, to create, you know, encouragement and motivation.
And they have their cameras on and you're watching them in real time?
They have their cameras on, but they can choose whether to show me the space or not. Some people take before pictures and after pictures, which is lovely. It's always a really nice, satisfying thing for me to see and for them to see. And sometimes people just work away themselves, which is great as well. And then I do a little check-in every so often just to see how everyone's going. And then at the end we come together and we have a little round if any people want to share how the experience was. And yeah, it's amazing what people can get done in an hour when we're accountable, because it's focused time and they know I'm there to help and to, they might have questions about things. Where should I keep this? And I can direct them to take it out of that space and put it somewhere else. And because that's a problem for people as well, where to keep things in the home and where makes most sense for them and their family and their lifestyle. So little things like that. So it's great. It's a really nice way for accountability and to get that, that place that has been untouched for a long time and to get in there and to,
a place that you avert your eyes from every time you pass it. I've certainly got them in every room. I've got a corner almost, and things that I've read to open because I know it's going to be chock full of things, and what should be in that drawer actually ends up somewhere else because the drawer is full and I need to go through it. So it's so clever to do it. And I think accountability is so important because for me anyway, with my ADHD, I will procrastinate forever on something. But if I have a deadline, or if I'm accountable, as in I've paid for a circle and I'm doing it within a certain time frame, and there's a camera on me especially, I find I can zip through something and be super, super efficient. Or like if someone's coming to visit, I can clean the whole house top to bottom in 15 minutes, whereas I might sit around for 2 weeks looking at a dusty surface thinking I should do that. You know.
Same for me. I mean, it's things can go on for weeks. And with work as an entrepreneur as well, there's that, without having colleagues and things, I think for me it's so important to have accountability with some other people to say, listen, I'll do this by this time. And accountability for me is huge. That's why, it's a great motivator.
Yeah, I love that. And I love this setting. Sorry, that's the dog. She's really she's got her head on my lap. Lovely. I haven't trusted her to be with me for any of the other podcast recordings, but she's usually outside the door, like sleeping across the door frame. So it's nice to have her on my lap. What was I going to say? Setting an intention like that makes the whole process so positive and mindful. Whereas I think I certainly was raised in a culture, and I'm sure it was very similar for many people listening, that it was a shameful thing to have mess, that, you weren't a good person, you were dirty, you were untidy, and it was all a very negative connotation. And I think we can carry those messages with us as adults, and then we start to berate ourselves when I'm looking now at a desk over there that's very cluttered. And every time I look at it, I feel, I should be better. And I saw you mentioned that whole language thing in you have a great Insta story highlight on our language and changing those shoulds. Could you want to talk a bit about letting go of shame? And that's, reframing things, really.
Exactly. There's so many ways that we bring shame upon ourselves, and some very obvious shame that we know we're speaking about during the day, and then very subtle, insidious ways we shame ourselves during the day. I have a workshop I do, Simplify Your Language, because I'm a speech and language therapist as well, no longer practicing as a speech and language therapist, but I love language, love communication, and simplifying our language. And it's fascinating, the language we use that diminishes us, makes us smaller, makes us apologetic rather than taking up space. And so words like the should, that heaviness of the should, it's a real heavy energy. And rather saying things like, this is something I could do, or, I get to do something. So the subtleties in the language that we can change to help the way we feel and the way we are in the world. And I really believe that our language is such a powerful tool. It casts spells, like it really creates the magic around us and how others perceive us and how we perceive ourselves. And so, it's a world of absolute wonder, and I'm still learning, and I still love, just becoming conscious of the words and language that we use, particularly as women, and how we take up space in the world and share our voices and share our thoughts and share our gifts and share what's inside of us. And I think that's a big why of my simplifying, because I think we can get so distracted by the shoulds and the shoulds from other people and from marketers and from everything out there. Buy this cream, make yourself look younger, keep doing this, keep, and when we let go of all that, let go of the clutter in our homes, let go of the clutter in our lives, let go of the people and the energies that mightn't be bringing out the best in us, and really be conscious of what we are consuming, from content to food to people to energies to stuff, we can then turn ourselves and start to listen to what's inside of us. And when that starts to happen, as I'm sure you know, Niamh, through all your work, what we detect there is our magic and our power. And when I see women getting in touch with that and realizing, oh my gosh, this was here all along, but I've been distracted by all of this stuff. What have I been doing? And
so true. Yeah. Once we stop thinking I need to look younger, thinner, fitter, better, my house needs to be more perfect, we realize the power we have and how our society diminishes us as women and keeps us stuck in feeling like we need to consume. And that's one thing I've always struggled with, is that shopping addiction for the dopamine hit, which I could get by walking outside with my dog in nature. One of the reasons I got a dog was to keep me accountable and getting me outdoors and walking every day, because I was finding I was getting lazy and procrastinating and not exercising. And that was one big factor in me getting a dog. And I think, as you say, it's like Dorothy with the ruby slippers. We've had that power all along, and it's all that extraneous nonsense and noise from mostly our smartphones, if we're to be honest, in recent years. That's where it's coming from. And all that internalized pressure and really misogyny, if you want to go there, that we think we are not enough as we are,
100%. And it's incessant. It's
down, really.
Yeah.
So what do you see happening in your women's circles when women do come together in that powerful, sacred space? And do you want to just mention what is a women's circle for anyone who hasn't heard of them or taken part?
So a women's circle, it's a very ancient practice where women used to gather, come together and share. And it's a very different way of communicating. So there's usually a space holder, someone who's holding the space for the group, but also very much a part of that circle. A circle inherently is non-hierarchical, so it's every person there and part of the circle. And so we do sit in a physical circle, and usually on the floor or on chairs, or on Zoom. And it's a space to be held, to be seen, to be heard without interruption. So it's a place of without advice. So there's no advice given. There's no nothing given back, no response given back from either the facilitator nor the members, the other people in the group as well. And so it's everyone just can speak whenever they want to. There's usually, if you're in person, there's a talking piece to really to represent taking up the space and to give voice to what you want to give voice to. And then you put the piece back and the next person speaks. Sometimes there's silence. And that's another thing that's particularly on Zoom can be a difficult thing for a lot of people to be with. So I do speak about that at the beginning, that I invite silence in as a member of the group, because it is such a potent and beautiful thing that is rare in society these days. We are rarely in silence ourselves, and we fill silences when they come about. But yet silence is where the gold is. Again, it's where we find the simplicity of silence, is where we can come across such magic and power. And so really holding space for that silence as well. But it's a place for women to come and declutter their mental, emotional, whatever's going on in their lives, to share whatever they want to. It can be joy, it can be sadness, it can be grief. Everything is welcome. All of the emotions. Nothing is to be shamed. It's all welcome. And it's a beautiful space. It takes practice, because it's a scary place to be in. At first, I found it very confronting to be in such a space where the communication was so different. I was used to being in friendships groups where there was lots of back and forth, gossiping, judging, complaining, the way a lot of people operate, and really coming out of that and being in a space where we are accepted as we are. We can tune into the deeper parts of ourselves rather than the higher level chit chat, small talk. We can get into how we are feeling in our emotional landscape. And so I do a meditation at the beginning to really get in touch with that part of ourselves that isn't that busy mind that wants to tell the to-do list and what we're dealing with. It's more the underlayers, what's going on and what are we dealing with and what's coming up. And then, you know, it's it just unfolds from there. And it's a beautiful, beautiful space where women come together and share and see each other. And then we see our story in other people's. We hear nuggets from other people that we realize we're not alone. We are all together in this. We are all experiencing very, very similar things through different, you know, different facades, different perspectives, different lives, but really underneath it all, we are all is in such a shared experience, and it's really beautiful. It's gorgeous.
I love that. I used to facilitate women's circles. I don't know if you were part of them before, or were you at my Urban Mama course?
Urban Mama.
Know each
Yeah.
other. So that was a self-development course for women, which was lovely. And it was more of a teaching format, I suppose. There was a slideshow and we discussed things as a group as well. But the women's circles were gorgeous because like that, you're sitting in a space and you're all equal, as you say, and it's about connecting with that consciousness that we all share. And that was so new to me. Even though I was doing it because I needed it. That's why I brought that about. And it just makes you realize it doesn't matter where somebody lives or what clothes they're wearing or what bag they carry. We have literally all got the same issues going on. Everyone's, especially since COVID, everyone is feeling isolated. Everyone has sleep issues at midlife. Everyone's managing hormonal shifts every week or two. And I think the more we can get rid of that outward noise and get to the crux of things, even just on a one-to-one level with a friend, and just open up and go, I'm finding it really hard at the moment. I have a teenager and a toddler, you know, and we just share on that real level. We feel, as you say, more connected, and then we can handle our own stuff a lot better. It's almost like group therapy, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. It's gorgeous. It's such a supportive place, and a place to really find out why we're here, who we are outside of all our daily tasks, daily to-do lists. And, you know, we can find our voice and find that magic and just find the rest, and the being held by other women is just, it's so beautiful. It's a really, really gorgeous, gorgeous thing. I remember your Urban Mama circles when I was, they were, as you said, more self-development, but they had that women's circle aspect to them. I didn't attend your women's circles, but you brought that in because it was such a sense of belonging. I think Connor was probably about one, not even one at that stage. I think we just moved back from London, and I was seeking that community, and I was seeking, and you brought that, and you brought the simplicity as well. And all I was so drawn to you because of the simplicity of the recipes, the simplicity of the natural ways we can heal together, heal our families, the remedies you were suggesting was all beautiful. And that sense of coming together and sharing our experiences. You were talking about things like boundaries and things like all those things that we would have been struggling with and still struggle with. And there's such common ground there. And when we can share that common ground, it's so beautiful.
It really is. And we're lucky if we have in real life one other person that we can actually be real on that honest level with. I know a lot of people feel isolated, and they're working and they're parenting, and they might just have their husband or partner to open up to at the end of the day. But I think if we can find that connection with another woman, we can really tap into a deeper power, because I don't think men get it the same way women do. We are such cyclical beings. We're so emotionally tied to our environment and our food and our children. It's a different way of relating to the world, I think, the female experience.
Completely. The courage to find those spaces and to reach out to that friend and connect on that level that's slightly different than the way we're shown that connection is in the outside world.
If you don't have that friend, a woman's circle like Anna's one would be a fantastic place to get that feeling of support, because you'll come away from that with that lovely oxytocin boost and that bonded, open, vulnerable but strength. Vulnerable, but feeling strong for sure. That's
and sometimes people come and don't share. I mean, there's always that invitation to share if you want, but also not to share, and just to be in that space, in that energy. And you know, sometimes it's because maybe where you are in your cycle, I'm not wanting to share today, I'm feeling quite inward, or there's it's nervousness, and that's fine, it's all allowed, and it's just being in that energy can be really supportive as well.
That's gorgeous. And I bet you're coming away from them as boosted as the women who take part, because it's a cyclical
100%.
thing. Share all
totally
that.
I absolutely, they've supported me so much over the years. I've been going to women's circles for a few years, and they have just given me life. They have given me I found my voice through women's circles. I have found amazing friends through women's circles, because sharing at such a deep level with people, that really the connections and it's beautiful. Yeah. So and also then facilitating them just fills me with joy. I come away from just being buoyant and so grateful for this life and for, what we get to experience.
That's gorgeous. There are other circles that do mothers and daughters. Do you do that too, or is that something you might think of
Not
doing?
yet, but I would think of doing it. Yeah, I think particularly as my daughter gets older, and I'd love to do circles on menarche, as marking those rites of passage that previously haven't been marked. And I think it's so important, those rites of passages. And yeah, the mother and daughter circles. I've heard of them. I've never been to one, and I've never
I think I
run one,
hosted
but I would love
one or
to.
two. I can't remember exactly, but I think I hosted one or two back in the day, and my
Ah,
daughter was too young, but it was the kind of thing I would love to bring her to. So I'll be watching out on your stuff for that. I don't know if you've heard of the author Lucy Pearce, who has written Reaching for the Moon. She's going to be on my podcast in a few weeks. I'll be recording with her.
is she?
I
She's
love,
amazing.
and I would
I
recommend.
haven't read that book,
Yeah, she's fab. She's got loads of great
but
books.
I've read Burning Woman. Is that one of
Burning
hers?
Woman,
And
yeah, Creatrix is
Creatrix.
created
Yeah.
in the midst of motherhood, and she has her own publishing company as well, based in Cork.
Yes.
She publishes other women writers. She's a powerhouse of a woman. I'm dying to talk to
Powerhouse.
her, but I
Oh,
recommend
that'll be
her.
brilliant.
She's got amazing books. To anyone whose daughter might be coming up to her first period, her book Reaching for the Moon is a game changer, and
Ah,
it's such a great way to explain this changing hormonal time for a girl without it being very scientific. It's more about nurturing.
yeah.
And she's not a woman yet, so it's nurturing that space between girlhood and womanhood. It's really beautifully written. So I recommend that.
Beautiful.
I'll be
Oh, it's gorgeous.
buying that for my own daughter. I bought it for my niece, and I've told my cousins to buy it for their kids. So it'll be on
Oh,
our bookshelf
wow.
as well. Yeah. What was I going to say to you? I
Fantastic.
would love to talk to you about being the good girl and what that does to our psyche, because I saw you have a
Ooh.
podcast about that, haven't you?
Yeah. So I have a podcast where I talk about all these type of patterns that I am coming into contact with and have been recovering from over the last few years. And obviously it's a spiral, so going deeper and deeper. But for me, the good girl, perfectionist, being nice, they're all very, very loud in my psyche and my being. And yeah, breaking out of those very, very deep conditioning and programming. So it's been quite a journey for me. I was brought up as, as the eldest child, so I fit into that did things well, kept quiet. I was pretty shy and quiet as a child anyway, and then that was reinforced as I went along. I was very sensitive as well, so being told I was sensitive and shy further reiterated that. Until I realized when I was 14, my mum handed me the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers.
Yeah.
And which is, I haven't read the book in years now, but I have it. I still have that book, which I read to death. It's been read, I don't know how many times over years. And it was such a key point in my life because it really allowed me to realize that we are not set in stone, that there is this subconscious programming and unconscious behaviors that go on, and that we can change the way we think. We can change the way we behave. So for a long time, that was a real liberation for me from 14 years old all through my 20s. I was delving into positive psychology and self-development, and which was all amazing and really allowed me to gain confidence and to become better in groups of people, to feel a sense of self, and to go out and follow dreams and follow things I wanted to do. But there was still that underlying unworthiness, underlying not enoughness. And so just before my son was born, that's when I kind of got into the deeper healing. It was with the simplifying, actually. Once I started simplifying and letting go, I got into this world of trauma healing, somatic work, so the body level, how our body keeps the score, basically, and starting to release those deeper programmings like the good girl through the body, and how it's just so there in our bodies, like it's so deeply etched in. So yeah, it's been a real journey of moving from that top down,
Yeah. Intellectual.
reprogramming the subconscious mind, which is very powerful. I have to say, like the this reprogramming the subconscious mind has been so powerful for me, but also really the change has come about or the lasting change, and that shift from unworthiness to feeling worthy and feeling enough and feeling like, I belong in this world, has come from the somatics, and that really going deep into that healing world.
That's amazing. I want to ask you more now, but I want to say you basically described me, the eldest child, the good girl, the shy kid in the group, doing well, staying quiet. And it wasn't my parents as such giving me, although they were praising me for all that. It was more that was what society and school required of me. So I fit into that mold really well. And like you, I was 14 when I had some awakening moments psychologically. I described one in my last podcast where I was standing on top of the hill in Tara. It wasn't the hill, it was one of the other ones in that vicinity. And I had this physical reaction to being on that hilltop in nature. And it really made me aware of my mortality, I think, for the first time.
Wow.
And then I remember finding books on the bookshelf around that age. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway was there. Another one that was amazing was called Swimming Against the Tide, and that was a book of all feminist writing, and it really got me so enraged at misogyny at that young age. And I always knew my mom was a really strong woman and a feminist too. She used to talk to me about, voting for women when I was old enough to vote, and the importance of seeing women in positions of power.
Wow.
She was a real leader and role model, and still is. Obviously she's still around, but when she was working, she was one of the only moms in fact, I think I was the only one with a mom who worked in my social circle, and she was a pharmacist who ran her own pharmacy. So she was really inspiring to me, and I had her as a direct, strong woman, and she was descended from a really even stronger woman, a country woman, my granny. So I had great role models in the family, which I was really glad about, and I never felt like being a girl was going to hold me back, but yet I had to be that good girl. And when I look back now at my experiences, where times when I should have spoken up and I didn't, and I did what was expected so I wouldn't cause a fuss. I was in long-term and short-term situations that could have been a lot easier and avoided completely had I been able to have a voice. And I don't think I got that until I was really growing and confident in my 20s, for sure. I think that's really important. And I haven't yet done any somatic healing. And I would love to ask you, how does that work practically? What does it look like? Is it with a therapist, or is it stuff you do on your own? How do you do that? Because I know I've done a lot of subconscious work. I've had therapy for 20 odd years. I'm reworking my relationship with my body. I'm finally happy at this weight for the first time since I was about 18. I've been this weight, and I'm finally going, this is fine. This is okay. I'm neutral about my body. I'm not so positive, but I'm not negative. I'm looking in the mirror going, thank you to my body for what it's doing. I don't
Amazing.
care what's the label on my clothing anymore. And that's only 6 months. So I'm really new into that journey, but it's been a journey to get there. And I've really been conscious, having a daughter, that I do not want to have hang-ups that I transfer to her, even, underhandedly, without saying anything. I know she would pick up on stuff. So how does the somatic work? How do I begin? How does anyone listening begin? How do we access that? Because I know there's so much more stored in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing journey to go on, and what started for me, I think it was Nicola Pera actually, who was one of the primary ones I remember, going into her work and deep diving into this world of being with my emotions, sitting with them. I've also worked with a therapist, but not years and years ago. I did talk therapy for a couple of years, which was great and helpful, but really the type of therapy where we are reflecting on what's going on in our bodies as well. So rather than just talking out the stories, but actually reflecting on what way is my body responding, and having someone who can help you hold the space to be with whatever is in the body at that time, and to stay there, to just breathe with it, to stay with it. And, sometimes it'll be tears, sometimes it'll be rage, sometimes but to slow down, and to, rather than getting carried away with just the facts, the story, what happened, who said what, it's coming back inward And yeah, it's just amazing being with, so my practices at the moment, I'm no longer working with a therapist at the moment, but I'm still doing, I did some somatic therapy itself as well, for maybe a year, less than a year. And lots of, I'm always just very fascinated with what way I'm responding to people in my world. Why am I irritated? Why am I feeling resentful? And having a curiosity around all of that and being with it. So at the end of the day, or whenever I can, I will try and create space where I can be with myself in silence without any distraction and feel what's going on and let out what's going on. And sometimes I do that in a kind of cathartic way. Like if it's rage and anger, I'll shake and I'll stomp and I'll punch the bed, and that's helpful sometimes. But also, what we've been taught as well, to expel that energy of anger. And sometimes that energy of anger can be very, very galvanizing for us. It can really help us to follow our passion, to follow. It's a good direction for us. Yeah. So similar to that Eros energy, the anger energy is a very, red, passionate energy that we are told to expel from our bodies. And it's there, and expel it. But actually, when we can bring these energies back and assimilate them in our bodies and feel them in our bodies, there's real power in that as well. So it comes through a lot of different practices and a lot of reflection and a lot of things that the outside world does not see as, as conducive and productive. We're sitting and listening to the body, really. And it takes practice because we're not used to that, and the subtleties in the body. And then, over the last few weeks now and months, I've been coming into contact with more subtle patterns that are there, insecurities, going out into the world and feeling like I always have to be perfect, and feeling like there's very, very insidious. They're so subtle that you could hardly even notice them. And coming into contact with those ones as well has been amazing. So it's definitely a process. It's ongoing. I've also found that speaking with my friends, so very friends who I trust very deeply, who I've shared deeply with, but speaking out our shame. So throwing light on the shame, how we were shamed about our bodies, what was said to us, what were the things we buried because they're too painful to look at, because it's really painful to go back to some of those times where, particularly to do with our bodies, but to do with our how we are in the world. And that locked that part of us away. And so when we shed light in that, like open that cupboard and go into that shame cupboard and just start to take out something, but it's important to share these things with someone who's very trusted and who can hold it and just listen and not try and create solutions for you. But I found that to be so powerful when we can, because shame is so insidious and we think we're the only ones who experience that shame. No one else has the shame I have, because, not true. Everyone has the shame. And again, it'll be under different guises and said in different ways and different parts of the body or whatever, but it's there. And when we can bring that out into the light, there's such power in that. So that's been very liberating recently for me.
That's amazing.
Talking about the shame.
And the guilt comes along with the shame, doesn't it? Like feeling guilty that you have shame, thinking I shouldn't have any shame. I feel guilty that I don't have a better relationship with my body or with, whatever else it is.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's something I always, and it was always the first part of my Urban Mama course when I ran that, was to realize we all carry that guilt. I think it's a women thing. I think it's a social script we pick up, especially when we become moms. The guilt that we're not doing enough for ourselves or our partners or our children, or we're not, so you can hear some moms who are doing so much. They're doing 24 hours a day work at home with the children, but they're feeling guilty that they're not bringing money in for the family. And I mean, how can you do that unless you were to literally own yourself? But that work that women do is so undervalued because there isn't a monetary number assigned to it. And yet we know, if we look at the statistics, if you were to hire people to cover all the things a woman does in a year, you couldn't afford them. Be in the hundreds of thousands to hire people to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the book, What Mothers Do When It Looks Like They're Doing Nothing. Do you know that one, by Naomi Stadley?
No.
It's called What Mothers Do. You go Google it, by Naomi Stadley. I'll link it below. But it quantifies the work that we do that's unseen, the hidden stuff that we do in the caring for our children or our partners or our parents. And it really will help you to rejig how you see your investment and where your energy goes. It's really brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Down to
Amazing.
accepting the fact that we will have these shameful, guilty feelings, and we can turn the guilt into anger, because guilt is just anger turned inwards. That's something I always have on my slides, even in my corporate wellness talks. It's guilt is anger turned inwards. Let's discuss this concept.
Yeah.
It's new to so
Yeah.
many people because they feel like this guilt is we're almost, I think, martyred to it. It's almost like a badge of honor that we are feeling guilty because it's keeping ourselves down. You know, we're not trying to put our head above the rest and act like I'm better than anyone else. I'm also weighed down by this guilt.
Yeah.
So usually it's a righteous anger we have against society or our partners or our kids for not helping out more. And with anger comes action, and we can actually do something about it and make some changes. So I think
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
somatic healing you're doing, it's completely different actually when you describe it to what I thought somatic healing was. And it turns out I have been doing it. I've been working with a hypnotherapist for the last couple of years since I got my autism and ADHD diagnosis. And she does a mixture of talk and hypnosis with me.
Oh,
And
gorgeous.
most of it at the start was sitting with my feelings. And for me, it's all in the chest. I know some people get stress in their throat or stomach. For me, it's always in my chest. And naming those feelings, allowing those feelings, figuring out where they're coming from, how to manage them, and realizing my body's always giving me clues on how I'm doing, but I learned to ignore those clues because I was told you shouldn't be feeling like that. You should just get on with things and do the next.
Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah.
Learning to
Amazing.
put names on my feelings has been huge. But I did think somatic healing had something to do with massage or yoga type physical movement. And I
Well,
suppose
as well. Yeah.
shaking and punching is all very therapeutic and cathartic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And nervous system healing as well. Like there's so many avenues of accessing the body memories. So yeah, the nervous system stuff of, getting back into that ventral vagal state of where we can have compassion and love and come from not in that activated, dysregulated state. There's so many, I mean, it's just a whole world of amazing work out there. And yeah, I've dabbled in lots of different parts of it and will continue to do so because it's just amazing.
I think even anybody who has had an easy life for now, maybe anyone who's not neurodivergent, who hasn't known that nervous system dysregulation, will feel they got a taste of it during COVID when we were all in that fight or flight, stressed out state for a lot of the time. I know I was anyway. Most people were. We were in fear, we were stressed, we were anxious and nervous, and we didn't know what was happening. So, so to regulate ourselves after that, what could people do in the moment? Say if they know they're stressed out. Sorry, the dog's chewing me. What would you recommend people do when they're feeling, say, tense or triggered by work or partners or friends? How do you manage that, Anna?
I mean, for me, it's usually the kids, and if it's usually at those, high intensity times of the day, or if I'm on my own with them for long periods, and I will say to them, I can feel. So I've become accustomed where I can sense the anger fizzling in my body and building up. So I'll say to them, and I think it's really good to communicate this with our kids as well, particularly so that they learn the language of emotions and listening to their bodies. So I will say, I can feel the anger is a bit rising in my body. It's coming to my belly. I'm going to take a moment. And they're old enough now. They're 9 and 7. I'll say, you stay here. I'm going to go to the bedroom, and I'll go in and I will pummel the bed and I might hiss, and I might, all those animalistic sounds, like think of the haka, like doing all those, it's really, really therapeutic and cathartic. And coming back to myself, connecting then with my heart, putting my hand on my heart, maybe a hand on my belly, hand on my womb space, and taking a few breaths as well. Shaking it out, I'll shake as well, or stomping. And then coming back into them, and that'll give me enough of a baseline to continue on, and to also let them know, or if it's with my husband, I'll let him know. We do a thing, I think it's Brene Brown who does it actually, who she talks about percentage, at the end of the day, what percentage are you at, what percentage are you at, and you say, okay, I'm at 70% capacity, so I have, I'm doing okay, whereas he might be at 20%, or vice versa, whatever it is. So we know that between us what capacity we have. And it's a great way of communicating. And I think, yeah, rather than allowing these emotions to build up in us till they get to the point where we fly off the handle, it's trying to get into them. And it takes such practice to do that, because we have been taught to suppress until explosion. So yeah, I do a lot of shaking, stamping, listening to music, dancing with the kids as well can help to it's usually the movement for me that helps. But if I'm in a very lethargic, down regulated state, then it's something like bringing energy into my body through breath work, or through breath work has been so powerful for me as well. And yeah, just playing around with different things and what works at different times, but it's generally the movement for me.
That's brilliant. And you're modeling such great self-care for your children there too. And they're not afraid of you when they know you need to go off and they hear the noises coming out of the bedroom. They're not scared and, wondering what's going on. They know you're looking after your mental health. And that's so powerful, and something I think we could all take a leaf out of your book for that. Definitely.
Yeah. And things like grounding, going out to the grass, bringing everyone out. Let's all get our socks off, stand in the grass and play with a game of chasing with them or something. But it's anything to get everyone onto that earth and allow that charge to be taken. Yeah, it's
brilliant. Because you can see how it can build up if we're spending our day on screens and we're indoors. We're not getting that venting that happens when we're out in nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we finish up? I've got a few random questions I ask everybody, like your favorite movie, favorite food.
Oh gosh.
Want to talk about, tell us, promote, or any?
Will I wait till the end to say about the
yes, we will get
discount for the
at the end where you're
at the end? Okay.
Yeah.
Grand.
Okay, so I have a lovely question for you. Do you set any intentions at the start of the year? Like, do you pick a word of the year to guide you, or have you set any intentions for this year? Or do you believe in that whole practice?
I do believe in that practice. I shy away from the beginning of the year because, new year, new you.
Yeah.
Can't stand all that. It kind of anything that is kind of mainstream culture, I tend to move away from. And I'm very much in the start of the year, in the wintering mode, and just in the, following the Celtic wheel, following the cycles of nature. So I usually go by the 1st of February around Bridget's Day, or even later, and into April. Yeah. But around then I used to have a word of the day. I have a word of the year. I haven't had a word of the year this year actually, but I'm very intentional day to day, intentional, usually with the moon. I do a bit of intention setting then, or with my cycle. So when I'm premenstrual and at the very beginning of my cycle, I'll usually set some intentions for that cycle, and making sure I take a rest day for the first few days of my cycle. If I take a rest day the first few days of my cycle, inevitably the rest of the month will be much smoother for everyone, for me and everyone around me. And that's a time where I'm inward and I can, set intentions. I don't have a specific practice as such, but it's definitely something I do with the kids and with my husband as well. We kind of keep a steer on where we're going, or a vision of what we want, but nothing specific.
That's lovely. And I love the idea, rather than people feeling they lost their opportunity because they missed it on the 1st of January. And I totally agree with you. I follow the Celtic wheel as well. And I definitely work all my work around my cycle where possible. What I love about your idea is that people can start afresh or set an intention at the start of their cycle, at the start of the month, at the start of a week, at the start of a day. You don't have to have it just once a year. So I think that's a lovely way for that. Definitely.
Yeah. Anytime.
Always start again. And if you're going to start a diet, for example, the way people say, oh, I've dropped the ball this week, I'll start next Monday, and they'll binge all weekend. You can start at your next meal. You don't have to wait for this, perfect time. The best time is right now. And you've actually given me an inspiration. I'm going to start I'm putting this straight into the charity bag when we finish. I'm just inspired now, and I'm looking around. There's so much clutter, and this is only part of it. But I will definitely be decluttering after talking to you today. Okay, I have a few questions for you that I ask all my guests. So is there was there a book or movie that made a big impression on you? I know you've mentioned Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, but was there anything else maybe that you saw as a young adult or child that has stayed with you?
Gosh, now, you know, there's a book, Women Who Run with Wolves, which you probably know of.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't finished. I have about 3 chapters left, I think, and I've been reading it for years.
I find it a
And
hard read. I think I have it and passed it on to someone, but it's the kind of thing I could dip in and out of.
I feel it's as I go through my healing, I think I'm ready for the next chapter. So it's something that's been with me for a number of years, and the stories in it and the way she writes has been so impactful. So that's definitely one that's had a huge impact on me. I mean, I've read so many books. I mostly read nonfiction. I'm trying to introduce some fiction into my life, because I'm an avid learner.
Yeah, but I think I do too much of that. So I've found some genres and some writers that I love, and I'm trying to just read all their works, because for me it takes a lot for me to get into a fiction book. So at least if I know it's set in a stately home or set in the 1930s and it's written by somebody like Nancy Mitford, I know I'm going to love it and I'll read that. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And movies, gosh. I mean, my memory, it's amazing. My memory for movies and for books as well is shocking. So I can see a movie and then I can watch it again a few years later and
I'm the same.
it's like it's a whole
and be shocked and laugh and cry as if it's the first time you've seen it. I'm the exact
100%.
same. But I love that because it means I actually reread. I have a few comfort reads, and I know whenever I'm low, I'll reach for a certain book. For me, it's Lucia in London by E.F. Benson, set in the 20s. And I can reread that over and over. And it's like, you know, when you're a kid and you're saying a prayer and it's so familiar, you're barely even registering. It's that kind of a book for me, but I still get shocked at the twists and turns. And I've read it, I don't know, 20 times.
I love it. Yeah, that's me. That's me. I love it.
I love that. It drives my husband mad because he's the opposite. He remembers every detail, so he can't watch or read anything again because he has it so fresh in his mind. Whereas for me, it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And I love it at the moment, but then it's gone forever.
It's gone. It's the same. My husband's the same. He remembers everything.
So funny. You definitely must pick opposites somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your desert island meal? Do you have one? And no judgment here. It might work with nutrition for people, but I don't.
Well, what comes straight to mind is eggs Benedict. I absolutely love eggs Benedict. Oh my gosh. Avocado, poached eggs, lovely sourdough bread, and the Benedict sauce. What's it called?
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what drink would you have with it?
Drink, I'd have, good question. I think homemade lemonade. My son has been making homemade lemonade the last week. He's just, I don't know, started. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Amazing.
Fresh lemon squeezed into fizzy water, sparkling water, and some honey. And it is divine.
Okay, I'm going to try that after I make some elderflower cordial, because there's so many elderflowers here, and I know I need to get out and pick them before they're all gone.
Gorgeous.
That sounds delicious. Okay, do you have a motto for life? Do you have any kind of guiding principle that you use to keep you on the right track?
Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Yeah, perfect. In every area.
Keep it simple. And that's, I mean, I need to hear that again and again, because I make things complex a lot of the time. You know, I think that's why I'm in this work and why I love it so much, because I'm constantly trying to complicate things for myself. And so it's always back to simplicity. Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Good for you. And
how can I simplify here? That's the question I ask. How can I simplify here?
Yeah.
If things get a bit chaotic.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. And lastly, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness. Oh, being with the people you love, doing the things you love, and while being connected to yourself and in presence.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Do you say we achieve it often, or if, you know, is it something we could achieve every day, that state? Is it something we need to work towards?
I think with practice, yes. I think we're taught that we can't. We're taught to commit to the struggle. There's a lot of, heaviness out there.
Yeah.
And which is of course to be acknowledged. But I do think that it can be experienced every day. Yeah, and that's why that's something I try to do every day. Experience the joy, see the joy, notice the joy, notice the abundance, and notice the beauty, and yeah, really take it in and acknowledge it.
Yeah,
Really,
it really is about
yeah,
the little things, isn't it?
the little things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
think once
smallest
you
of
realize
things.
that's where your joy is and that's where you need to look for it, it's in the perfect cup of tea. It's in the sunny 5 minutes you get. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be in the big once a year holiday where you're striving for an
no,
amazing moment.
no, because then you're waiting for it. We don't.
Yeah.
It's right now. It's what what am I feeling in my body that's comfortable now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love your philosophy. I love your outlook. And I think you're really one of these people who's living what they say. You are practicing what you preach, and it's really inspiring. So if anybody wants more inspiration, where can they find you, Anna?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Wild Simplicity, and my website is annaday.ie, where I put up all my women's circles, my decluttering circles, and I'll have some language workshops and things coming up in the next while. And there's a discount code for your listeners, which you can put in the show notes perhaps for my upcoming decluttering circles. So they're at the beginning of each month, the first Saturday of each month for the next few months. And yeah, so that's where you'll find me on my
Thank you. And your
podcast, Wild Simplicity.
where is
Yeah,
that hosted?
that is on all podcast platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And it's there, yeah, Wild Simplicity, which I publish sporadically at the moment. So yeah.
Beautiful episodes already. I've been listening to a few of them, and they cover a huge range of topics. Everything we talked about today, healing the inner child. I think there's a lot of kind of letting go of old behaviors there, as well as your practice every day. This is how to simplify as well.
Yeah, a real mix.
Great. So we'll put all your links below for anyone who's listening. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been so lovely chatting to Niamh. Really gorgeous. Thank you so much. Absolute joy. Thank you.
Take care. Wow, I could listen to Anna speak all day. Her voice is so soothing, and her message is one we can all learn from. I'm going to seek out more silence in my days and practice my breath work after her reminder. Join me next week for episode 4, where I speak to writer Ben Murnane about his new book, a biography of Zoltan Istvan, the transhumanist who wants to turn us all into cyborgs so we can live forever. Help me spread the joy by sharing this podcast with your friends. Give me a 5-star rating if I deserve it, and I'd love your feedback on socials or my website. If you got this far, you might want to sign up for my Inner Circle email at the link below. Thanks.